Dad. Morning, William.
Morning. It'll be like it never happened.
What's going on? William, something's not right with me. Tell me the truth.
There was a crash. You and the kids died. Initiate. I brought you back.
There is a reason human cloning is banned.
I'm dead.
We stole millions of dollars worth of biodine equipment. I hope you're ready to go to jail.
Those 3 subjects are our property.
I didn't defy every natural law there is just to lose you again.
How could you do this?
Because I love you.
So, numerology. I want to talk a little bit this evening about numerology. So, I just played the trailer for Replicas, which is set to come out January 11th of 2019. What I didn't know is that it actually had a previous set date to come out, which would have been November 30th of 2018. For whatever reason, I haven't looked into it, but for some reason, they decided to change the date. Me and my boyfriend, we had seen the trailer on TV. We kind of discussed, the fact that I discussed the fact that they had changed the date. Once I looked this up and noticed the date for the release, and we both just, kind of came to a consensus that maybe it's because there was a lot of, really good movies coming out. Not that this isn't a good movie, but there's a lot of really good movies that have come out this end of the year. So, there's been some box office, Aquaman, everything like that. Okay. So anyways, the date change. One thing that I think is really interesting to do is look at the numbers that surround these movie releases, these book releases, these, certain dates that certain things happen on. Numerology is something that I think anyone can get into. It's really simple stuff if you really just look at it in the simplest form. It's basically just adding numbers. I know people are afraid of math, and math is freaking scary. I get it. Algebra is scary. I can't even think about trigonometry or anything other than that. So, that being said, I just wanted to look at the first release date for this movie, which would have been the 11th of November. I'm sorry, the 30th of November of 2018. So, right off the bat, I noticed the number 11. Now, 11, you can either break down in several ways. There's several ways to look at all of this stuff. The 11 can signify, in my mind, my first word that comes to mind is initiation. 11 is going to be your building block from which you're going to see double-digit numbers. You're going to see double-digit everything. So if you haven't been listening to my stuff or watching my stuff, 33 is a number that you will see burned into your brain. It will just be in your mind, and you won't know what you're seeing because it's usually pretty subliminal. It's slipped in there in the most discreet of ways. So 11 is kind of an offshoot of 33 because it's a double-digit number. Think of Phillips 66 or Route 66. There's a lot of conspiracy stuff behind Route 66. We can get into that at some point. Basically, this is regarding the Freemasons. This is the building blocks, the stepping stones from being a initiate such as the number of 11, because it's the first of the double-digit numbers, leading up to 33 and up to 66, which are two highly significant numbers for the, whatever you want to call this. I won't call it the Illuminati. We'll call it the agenda. So, the agenda has these numbers given to us in plain sight so that we can see them and not recognize them, but our mind recognizes them and is attracted to them. It's the same as, say, seeing a peace sign or seeing the devil horns. You're automatically drawn to it because you know its connotations. That being said, this number 11 can be broke down into a 1 and a 1. If you put a 1 and a 1 together, obviously that equals 2. There are two genders that we can scientifically pick apart, okay? Let's not get into genders and pronunciation, your pronouns, and all of that. Because the two that we can see and touch are two genders, okay? So I'm not going to get into the transgender side of this or the trans agenda in this. I'm just going to solely be focusing on the very covert, very extraterrestrial type stuff that we're going to be seeing in this trailer, in this movie. Within all of this, it's everywhere. So if you haven't seen iRobot or any other of the countless AI movies that are, Terminator, that have been in cinematic history for the past, 50 years. They started a long time ago, but they've just gotten more advanced because technology has progressed, which is what we're supposed to be doing as part of the plan. So, if we look at this date, we start from the left and read to the right. Now, you can manipulate this in a way as in flipping words backwards, reading them backwards, flipping numbers backwards, reading them backwards. All of that can be done. But for the easiest and the most simplest point of view, we're just going to read from left to right. So we start with a 3, we add the 1 from, we can skip the 0 because the 0 is kind of just a placeholder. So it's not going to be really the important part of what we're looking at. So we add the 3 to the 1, that makes 4. We add 1 more, we make 5. So we have 5 just from the November 30th. Okay? So then we move to the 18. We add the 5 to the 2, which comes to 7. We add in the 1, comes to 8. Now we have 2 8s side by side. So as far as meaning goes, we can continue to combine it, which is where you would get the 8 plus 8 equals 16. 1 plus 6 would equal 7. So as far as a subliminal or a symbolic number, you're going to be left with either the 88, which is the double-digit number, or the 7, which is, I have an example up here, if you're looking at this picture, is the synth. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I had to learn that. Basically, it is the representation of, we always think of it as maybe heaven, seventh heaven, or, being a heavenly or godly number. But it can also represent Saturn and death, Father Time. So that is symbolic in itself. It kind of has the same shape as the synth, the crop chopper, whatever you would like to call this thing that death is holding up here at the top right. So we can either have that, which would be the 7, or we can leave 88 as it is, and it would very easily represent the infinity symbol, or 33. If you take two 3s and you flip one on its side and you put them together, physically, you have an 8. Not as far as adding them, but as far as physically putting together their shapes, you would get an 8. That 8, or that infinity symbol, is going to be representative or in connection with Saturn. It is part of Saturn's representation. These people who are part of this agenda, they worship the planet Saturn. So Saturn is their planet. They think of it as the sun. It is what their world revolves around. They believe that it was our first and true sun. So, that being said, that's really what I'm looking at as far as this date goes. Now, we're not even done, because I would like to get into the other date, which is the actual release date now, that has now turned into the date that it's going to be released. It goes from this 30th of November date in 2018 to 2019. So they push it up. So here we're seeing some other things that the first thing that jumped out at me is that same 11. They're still using the 11. So they had to keep that if they wanted to maintain the symbolism. So 2 genders. If you look at the fingers that I went ahead and put next to the January 11, on the left, you'll see that we have the crossed fingers, which is something that you'll see in different representations. We'll actually see a lot of it. So it's supposed to either be the lying symbol, as in fingers crossed because I'm lying. It could also be the dueling of the sexes, so transgenderism. 2 being molded into 1. It becomes 1 finger when you wrap both your middle finger and your forefinger, your pointer finger together. And if you separate them, you get a 2. So you're seeing the 2. This is the peace sign, the whatever you would like to call it sign. It's mainly known as the peace sign, obviously, though. So again, 2 genders is what my mind goes to automatically. So one thing I would like to mention really quickly before I continue is that with the other photo, if we keep the 88, I mean, that pretty much represents 2018, does it not? I mean, that's an 8. So anyways, with that being said, I'll jump back into this picture, and in relation to what I just mentioned with the 8 and it being 2018 for the release date, the same thing can be said for this. So at the very bottom of this page, very bottom right corner, you're going to see that 9, 2019. This equation could break down into a 9. So let's just begin from the top with this being January 11th of 2019. We're seeing 4 1s. It's a little much, all those 1s, don't you think? So we have 1 plus 1 is going to equal 2, obviously. This is easy math, you guys. So from that 2, we're going to pull that other 1 from the 11th and make 3. Now we're going to add the 2 from 2019 to equal 5. And then we'll add the 1 to equal 6, which leaves us with either 69 or 6 plus 9, which would equal 15. We break down 15 to equal 1 plus 6, which would equal 6. So we can either go with 69 or with 6. Either way, it's both a 6. Upside down, we can flip that 6 and it becomes a 9. Or we can flip the 9 and it becomes a 6. They're interchangeable. It's another way of saying duality. It's another way of showing the dueling of the sexes, of worlds, dark and light, good and evil. I mean, everything is going to strike meaning from all of this. So, that being said, since we're talking about flipping the numbers, it can either be 66, 99, or just a 6 or just a 9. However you want to think about it, but either way, they're paying homage to 2019 and the significance that we're going to see this year within the agenda. So I'm telling you right now, we are going to see some crazy shit this year. Shit's going to go down like it's never gone down before, because this is their number. The 9 is their number. That's where they pull energy from. They believe that it's a creative number. It's creation in itself. So that's why I included these pictures that we're seeing off to the left and off to the right. The swirl, as I would like to call it. You can see it with the top left corner of the pictures of the swirl, the planetary swirl. That could very easily be representative of the rings of Saturn also, because it's a ring, so it's continuous. As is, you can see the 6 and the 9, if their numbers continue down, it would create the circle, which you see with the 6 hand, which I think about it now, and it's really a 3 hand, because you're holding up 3 fingers and you have the circle. So you're essentially making a 30 with your hand. But that being said, move to the bottom left-hand corner and we see the candy swirl. You're going to see this candy, if you haven't already. You're going to see it in so many things. It's going to be overwhelming once you actually start to think about the meaning behind this stuff. This swirl is not only representative of this continuation, the cycle of life and death, which is representative of Saturn. Life and death is, is everything. It's everything we know. So this candy swirl can also be used as, this image in particular, can be used as a form of very simple mind control, if you think about it. I've seen a lot of kids stuff, a lot of stuff for adults in music videos, all kinds of things, where they start spinning these lollipops, where the circle itself starts spinning. I think of Saturn with the rings, because the ring continues, and if it were to move or circulate, as is what people say our Earth does, which I do not believe. That's another topic for another story, so another video, so please don't hold that against me at this point, okay? I'll delve into that later. But this swirling can really be used to play tricks on your mind, so it's going to further the illusion. The world we live in is all about illusion. Everything is an illusion, okay? Gender is an illusion. So let's move up to the conch shell in the top right. This is also one of the first things that you're going to think about when you think of a swirl, is you're going to think of this conch shell, because it's part of nature, and it's always been a kind of a fascinating image, I think, for a lot of people. A lot of people put the square around it, and they do the calculations of, I'm sorry, I don't know what the number is, but they do the calculations to determine, life, basically. It's the same as squeezing your hand together, which is, I tried to find a picture that was easier to see, but it wasn't coming across as great as I wanted it to. But the right hand, the right sided of the picture, this hand, if you push the fingers down all the way, your fingers curl, which look like the swirl. So I'm going to call it the swirl of life, because it is life and death encompassing itself. It's the snake eating its own tail. It's everything that we know to be right in the world is, for something that's created, something is destroyed, which is what they're doing with us as people, as a society. The bottom right is going to be the flower, which is also representative of life and sex and death, and we see flowers bloom and then we see them wilt. So we also see the swirl in the leaves, in the petals with this. So these are all kind of images that I just really thought would be a good representation of the numbers. They represent the numbers, which is the 6 and the 9 and the 8. Because if you were to extend that 6 down or extend the 9 up with its leg, the leg that's coming off, you would create an 8. It would be 2 circles. So, with that being said, I really want to watch this movie. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to pick it apart. I'm seeing a lot of initiation movies where they talk about, where they have kids, particularly in the movies. I'll share some other ones that I have come across lately. But this is one that I am definitely going to see, because I know it's going to give me some insight into maybe what the future plan is, because they love to predictively program us. So they show us what they're going to do well before they do it. well before they do it. Years in advance they're planning. So they already have planned for us probably what they're going to do in, 2029. So, I mean, we know this from just watching the news and reading, different articles and things like that, that stuff gets predicted well ahead of time of what's going to happen with technology or with movies or with, everything in life. So medicine, technology with that's always developing faster than we can keep up with it. So yeah, I hope you guys watch it. I hope you liked my video, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.